we've just reached the end of November, and I wanted to do an update on where the Daikon has got to. Apparently there are a really large number of varieties of Daikon out there, and it appears as though this isn't the type that gets to about a foot long, but nevertheless it is Daikon, and my own gardening sense is telling me that maybe these need pulling up now. So I think we're not far away from lifting, so I think in another week or so these will be pulled up, and we'll take a look at it and see whether or not it's worthwhile sowing again next year, or whether or not there's some adjustment to be done to where I decide to sow them. So keep a lookout for that. Probably do a Daikon lifting in the next fortnight. This is the other patch of Daikon that I'm growing on the allotment. Again, it's in the greenhouse, but a different greenhouse location. And interestingly, the Daikon in here has grown to a size that is recognisable as Daikon. And interesting to point out that this was the area where we grew the Edo leaves, and it may be that this particular Daikon needs quite a bit of fertiliser, which goes against the principles of what I know that you should do with radishes. So it's all trial and error, but like I say, this Daikon looks more recognisable. It's quite a bit bigger than the other Daikon that I've just shown you. So anyway, we'll learn from the different growing experiences a season brings. This is the area where we've been growing rainbow carrots this year. Now, it's been in the ground for about 3 months now, I think, and as we're approaching 3 to 4 months, it's time to start thinking about lifting these. I've never grown rainbow carrots before, and I'm not an expert in growing carrots anyway, so it'll be interesting to see what they look like when we lift them. But the plants seem to be quite healthy anyway, from the tops at least. But it's not the tops we're interested in, it's what the carrots are doing underneath. So I don't think we're that far away from a carrot reveal. So come back and join us in the future, and we'll take a look at whether or not the carrots have been a success this year. If nothing else, we should get a nice flush of different colours that you associate with rainbow carrots. It's definitely been a year for trialling different things and pushing the boundaries of what we can grow up in the north of England. And an example of that is these Monge 2 peas that I sowed in October. And whilst the plants have produced some pods, which will need picking, it's just too cold and too overcast in late autumn, and I think that, like the trial with planting purple beans late in summer. It's not really worked out, but there's nothing really lost. I was trying to see whether or not we can fill this late autumn and winter gap that we get. There are some other plants that I'll focus on next year, but just wanted to see whether we had any luck with things like beans. So I'll pick these miserly few pods and we'll put that down to another lesson learned. Again, it's just a look at seeing what we can grow over the cooler months, if anything. They've germinated quite well. So I suppose that's the first phase of trialling. Keep an eye on this and see whether or not it's worth repeating next year. The Overwintering coriander, the patch that I'd sown in late September, is flourishing, and with it being inside a greenhouse, we're going to leave this to do what it needs to do, and we'll take pickings from it as we need. Obviously, we've frozen batches of coriander from our earlier harvest. However, nothing really beats the taste of freshly picked coriander, and this will be our supply. It's a small raised bed area in one of the greenhouses up on the allotment, and I think the concept of less is more will be applied here. So when we are making a chutney, or if I do get a chance to pop up and check on how things are going, then I'll pick a few leaves and we'll throw them into a salad. A long time ago I tried to think about what produce I could grow all year round, and from my research and my own experience of growing coriander, I thought this is something that we could try and grow all year round, even here in the northwest of England, and it's looking like it's one to persist with. I think the key thing to do around this time of the year is make sure that you cover up any open ground so that the weeds don't grow over winter. This is one of the most important jobs I think you can do on an allotment. I learned quickly that any time spent weeding in late October, early November, before you actually cover up, means you'll have a lot less weeding and digging to be doing in spring. So if nothing else, make sure you cover up your growing space. You'll be glad you did it by the time you get to spring.